Last night on Jimmy Kimmel Live, tensions ignited and exploded into a full-blown verbal brawl as Jimmy Kimmel traded jabs with Elon Musk. The billionaire CEO stormed off set mid-interview after a fiery clash that left the audience speechless and the internet ablaze. Before we dive in, tell us where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button for more jaw-dropping stories like this. The night began like any other. The audience buzzed with anticipation, the usual warm tones of late night, television humming in the background. Elon Musk, tech magnate, Twitter firebrand, and the world's most talked-about CEO, walked onto the Jimmy Kimmel Live stage to a mix of applause and curiosity. Musk, ever composed in his awkward charm, nodded politely as he took his seat across from the grinning host. But what followed would spiral far from the usual light-hearted banter. Kimmel opened with the customary late-night friendliness, but his eyes glinted with something more pointed. "So, Elon," he began, flipping through a note card with mock seriousness, "how's life in the simulation these days? Still running on Dogecoin?" The audience chuckled lightly. Musk smirked, unbothered at first. "Life's good, simulated or not." But Kimmel wasn't letting up. "Let's talk about your little rocket hobby. SpaceX, you guys finally launch something that doesn't blow up? Or are the fireworks just part of the charm?" The studio laughed harder. Musk's smile tightened, betraying a flicker of tension. "If you count reusable rockets as fireworks, then yeah, we're pretty consistent." Kimmel nodded, feigning admiration. "Reusable? Right. Like reheated leftovers, edible but disappointing." He leaned in slightly. "And how about that Cybertruck? I mean, Elon, you promised Blade Runner and delivered a metallic doorstop." The crowd erupted. Musk's posture stiffened. "It's called innovation. You might not understand that from behind a desk built to throw jokes, not build futures." Jimmy clapped his hands, amused. "Oh, I understand innovation. I just think it usually comes with working windows." The Cybertruck window debacle, a wound Musk had grown used to. But tonight, under the heat of Kimmel's surgically crafted jabs, it flared anew. Musk exhaled slowly, calculating his next move. But the host wasn't done. "And how's Twitter? I mean, sorry, X. Bold move, rebranding a platform everyone hates under a name no one wanted. That's like opening a restaurant called Botulism and wondering why no one's eating there." The laughter roared. Musk, red creeping into his cheeks now, leaned forward. "You know, Jimmy, it's easy to mock when you're not the one actually trying to fix anything." Jimmy shrugged. "Oh, I fix things, like bad segments. We might have to cut this one, for example." The air grew tight. Audience laughter turned nervous. Then came the turning point. Kimmel raised an eyebrow and said with cool precision, "Your Tesla stock's been dropping faster than your credibility, Elon. Investors must be thrilled. What's next? A flamethrower 2.0? Maybe you can burn the losses." A ripple of ooze ran through the crowd. Musk's face hardened. "Tesla has revolutionized an industry. You wouldn't have the platform to mock if I hadn't." Kimmel tilted, his head, like a boxer testing an opponent's jaw. "Right. The industry that's now being outpaced by competitors who didn't waste billions on robot butlers and failed tunnels. That was the final straw." Musk reached down, yanked off his microphone with a sharp tug and stood. "I came here for a conversation," he snapped. "Not a comedy roast masked as journalism." Kimmel smirked. "You came here to talk, Elon. But it turns out the future's not the only thing you struggle to deliver." The audience gasped. Musk stood frozen for a beat, jaw clenched, eyes locked on Kimmel. Then, without another word, he turned and walked off stage. The cameras kept rolling. The crowd was too stunned to applaud, too electrified to speak. Jimmy turned to the lens with a sly grin, saying, "Well, folks, looks like someone's EV just ran out of charge." Twitter exploded within minutes. Musk meltdown trended worldwide. Clips flooded TikTok and Reddit, each one capturing the exact moment. The world's richest man stormed off a late-night stage like a scorned intern. But it wasn't over. Because what no one saw coming, what even Jimmy hadn't planned for, was the ripple effect this would cause across Musk's empire. Within minutes of Elon Musk's dramatic exit from Jimmy Kimmel Live, the digital world ignited. Twitter, or rather X, as Musk now insisted it be called, was consumed with an avalanche of hashtags. Musk meltdown, Kimmel KO, Tesla tumble. The clip of Musk tearing off his mic and walking off stage was dissected from every angle, slowed, down, looped, captioned, and memed. And then came the markets. By dawn, Tesla's pre-market value had begun to wobble. Analysts, sensing weakness in Musk's public image, pounced. By 9:30 a.m. EST, when trading opened, the stock took a dive, a real one. This wasn't just a PR hiccup, it was blood in the water. CNBC flashed an urgent banner across the screen. Tesla stock slides, following Musk's controversial TV appearance. Financial pundits debated whether Musk's credibility as a leader was eroding in real time. News anchors replayed the Kimmel footage on loop, pausing to emphasize every flinch, every moment of hesitation, every poorly received comeback. And while the headlines brewed chaos outside, inside ABC's studio, things were no less charged. Backstage, Kimmel's team scrambled to handle the fallout. The control room buzzed with frantic calls, some from network executives, others from Musk's now radioactive PR team. One assistant nervously whispered into her headset, "He's refusing to speak to anyone. He left the lot 5 minutes ago, and told his driver to head where no one can find me." Jimmy, meanwhile, remained oddly composed in his dressing room, swirling a glass of something brown and expensive, watching the clips himself on his phone. His smirk had faded, not because he regretted what happened, but because the confrontation had taken a life of its own. Bigger than ratings, bigger than Kimmel versus Musk. It had become symbolic. A knock on his door broke the silence. It was Sarah, one of the producers. "Jimmy, Elon's people just called. They're trying to spin it." "Of course they are," he muttered. "They're claiming you ambushed him, that you violated agreed-upon topics." Jimmy raised an eyebrow. There was no agreement. "They asked for the usual, no surprises." "I don't do surprises. I do late-night TV." She hesitated. "Well, they want a retraction, or at least a clarification, something that softens it." He scoffed. "After the flamethrower comment? After that walk-off? They want me to clarify?" Sarah didn't respond. She didn't need to. "Let it burn," Jimmy said, waving her off. "We'll address it on tomorrow's monologue." Across the city, Musk wasn't handling it quite as coolly. In a penthouse suite high above Los Angeles, Elon stood in front of a massive screen displaying real-time sentiment analytics. Red dominated the display. Tweets labeled negative, sarcastic, critical. Every mention of Elon or Tesla was being logged, quantified, and weaponized against him. He watched in silence as another headline popped up. "Kimmel exposes Musk, the night the tech king was dethroned. Call legal," he said flatly. A voice behind him, a younger executive from his media team, spoke cautiously. "Sir, with all respect, you're fanning the flames. People are laughing. They're not scared. Legal action will only—" "I don't care if they laugh," Musk snapped. "I care that my stock is bleeding because some clown in a suit decided he's funnier than he is." The room went still. He took a breath, calming himself. "Schedule a Twitter Spaces tonight. I'm addressing it myself." "But I said schedule it." Back at ABC, news kept breaking. Former guests of Jimmy Kimmel Live began weighing in online. Some supported Kimmel's boldness, others condemned it as unprofessional. Celebrities picked sides. Podcasts devoted emergency episodes to the moment. By late afternoon, it wasn't just late-night gossip. It was a full-blown cultural event, and, yet under the surface, something else was brewing. At around 6 p.m., Kimmel was approached by an ABC rep, one from higher up the food chain. A man in a stiff suit with the kind of practiced calm that signaled a fire behind his eyes. "Jimmy," he said, "we're hearing Musk is prepping to go live on Twitter Spaces. He's going to tell his side." Jimmy leaned back. "Let him. I'm not afraid of Space Karen monologuing to a bunch of tech bros in the comment section." The rep didn't laugh. "There's concern. Legal concern. We may be asked to issue a statement." Kimmel stared at him. "Tell the board to grow a spine, or a sense of humor. Either would do." That night, as the world tuned into Musk's live address, Jimmy did what he always did, sat in the studio preparing his next monologue. But he wasn't writing jokes. He was planning a response. Musk's voice echoed from speakers and laptops across the globe. "I didn't walk out because I was offended," he insisted. "I walked out because I will not be used for someone else's ratings. What happened last night wasn't journalism. It wasn't even entertainment. It was sabotage, dressed up as satire." The SpaceX CEO accused the show of deliberate manipulation, of trying to provoke a moment they could go viral with, and then, without naming names, warned of the consequences of attacking innovators who are actually building something. But Jimmy had anticipated it. And in a quiet moment during the taping break, just before the cameras rolled again for that night's episode, he turned to his crew and said, "I don't care if he builds cities on Mars. If he can't handle a few jokes, maybe he's not the genius he thinks he is." Then, leaning into the silence, he added, "And tomorrow night, we finish what we started." When the next evening arrived, the audience inside Jimmy Kimmel Live's studio felt different. No longer just a collection of fans eager for celebrity, banter, and scripted laughs, they were now witnesses to a cultural moment. The Musk incident had gone from late-night anomaly to the center of global discourse in less than 24 hours. Cameras had been doubled, security beefed up. The crowd outside the studio spilled into the streets, chanting, holding signs, some for Musk, others for Kimmel. Inside, Jimmy stood backstage in a crisp suit, eyes locked on the monitor. He watched the opening montage roll, saw the flashes of last night's walk-off cut into slow-motion drama, saw the world's richest man exiting his set mid-insult. He knew what tonight had to be. It wasn't just damage control or comedy, it was reckoning. As the opening music hit, Jimmy walked onto the stage to thunderous applause and a sea of anticipation. He smiled, waved, and stood center stage for a beat longer than usual. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was heavy. Then he spoke. "Last night we had Elon Musk on the show, and unless you've been under a very poorly designed Cybertruck, you probably know it didn't go great." The crowd laughed, but cautiously. "I made jokes. That's my job. He didn't like them. That's his right." But what happened after, what's happened in the last 24 hours, has made one thing very clear. He turned slightly toward the camera now. We're living in a time when power is fragile. Not fragile in the sense that it breaks easily, but fragile in the way an ego shatters when it's touched. Elon Musk walked out not because he was wronged. He walked out because the mirror I held up didn't flatter him. Applause began to build. And in the fallout, we've seen stocks fall, social media mobs rise, and executives panic because one man had to endure being publicly questioned, mocked even, like the rest of us have been since the schoolyard. The audience clapped louder. Jimmy nodded solemnly. "You can build rockets. You can reinvent cars. You can even buy an entire platform to control your own narrative. But you don't get to escape scrutiny. Not here, not ever." He held the moment, then transitioned seamlessly into the show. But tonight wasn't about the rest of the show. It was about the ending. As the final segment approached, a hush fell again. Jimmy sat behind his desk, glancing at his notes but not reading them. "We had the option tonight to invite Elon back," he said, "for a do-over. His team offered an interview. Pre-recorded, pre-approved, sanitized." A few groans echoed from the audience. I declined. Scattered applause turned into a wave. Said, "If Elon wants a do-over, it's not here, because this isn't the metaverse. This is reality. And in reality, you don't get to rewrite the past just because you didn't like the outcome." There was weight in his words. Not anger, not revenge, just truth. Now, I know there are people watching this who think I was too harsh, that I crossed a line. And you're entitled to feel that way. But I also know that the moment we start treating billionaires like they're beyond mockery, beyond satire, beyond challenge, we've lost something more important than a guest. He paused, then added, "We've lost the point." The applause was no longer measured. It was full, unanimous. And as for Mr. Musk, if you're watching this, and let's be honest, you probably are, I meant what I said. If you can't, take a few jokes. Maybe the future doesn't need your name on it after all. Jimmy stood up from behind his desk. "We're done here." Cut to black, but the world wasn't done. In the days that followed, reactions poured in from every corner of culture. Editorials were published dissecting the power dynamics at play. Op-eds debated whether Kimmel had gone too far or not far enough. Musk's followers continued their digital assault, while others applauded the late-night host for refusing to bend under the weight of wealth and ego. Tesla's stock did eventually recover, because it always does, but a dent remained. Not in the numbers, but in the mythology of Elon Musk himself. For years he'd been seen as untouchable, a maverick playing 4D chess while the rest of the world fumbled with the rules. But that illusion cracked when a comedian on national TV exposed the very thing Musk couldn't engineer away: his own humanity. In a final twist of irony, the clip of Musk storming off would go on to become the most watched segment in Jimmy Kimmel Live history. The episode topped YouTube, trended on every major platform, and earned the show a nomination for a Peabody under the category of Cultural Discourse. As for Jimmy, he never publicly addressed the incident again after that night. He didn't need to. The point had been made. His job wasn't to keep powerful people comfortable. It was to keep them honest, whether they laughed or not. And Elon? He retreated temporarily from public interviews. He posted cryptically on X. He blamed legacy media for framing the narrative. But the echo of that confrontation haunted his reputation. In every future interview, every keynote, every attempt to reassert dominance, people remembered the night he walked off Kimmel's stage and how he never came back, because some reputations are built on brilliance, others are broken by silence. And that silence, the moment he turned his back and left, that was the ending no one could edit.